What is happening, and welcome to another Photography Talk episode, friends. This is going to be an exciting video here today. Matter of fact, we're going to be going on a journey, specifically how a metal print is made. But, well, friends, before we get to the part where we're going to be talking about how a metal print is made, we're going to discuss a little bit about a photo. No, actually, we got to go back further. We're going to talk about a photographer who actually took the photo. But before we get to all of that, friends, if you could do me a big, gigantic favor, if you find some value with this video, do me a favor, hit that like button down below. It really does help with the whole YouTube algorithm. That said, my friends, pull up a seat in. Let's go. All right, friends, now that you understand a little bit of direction of where this video is going to be heading, let me introduce you to Michael Metzger, who happens to be from my old stomping ground, New Jersey. Well, actually, I'm a New Yorker, so I guess we're kind of neighbors, or we were neighbors growing up and so forth, but a fellow Northeastern. But he now lives as a board-certified physician living in South Florida. So, Michael, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Alex. Really honored to be a part of this project, documenting the photo processing at Artbeat Studios, and to have met you. I'm excited for this interview.
Now, Michael, in a moment, I'm going to be asking you some very specific questions about one of your metal prints, and actually then we'll be talking about how metal prints are made. But first, let's you and I do something really fun. Let's go back. We're going to jump in the Wayback Machine. We're going to go back to the very day, the very moment that you picked up a camera for the very first time. So, Michael, what inspired you to become a photographer?
So what inspired me to become a photographer? That's a great question. As a kid, my dad was very into photography. He took a lot of pictures on 35mm film, and was always out there taking pictures at our sporting events and around family trips and travels, and was always... as a kid, partly annoying, and then actually as we traveled, I remember on a trip, I was fortunate enough to have my parents take us to Europe, and with my dad. He had a little tripod. He was taking some pictures in Bruges, Belgium, which is the town where he was born. I just remember the absolute beauty of taking nighttime pictures with lit up buildings with the reflections in the water, and just the principles scientifically always appealed to me as he was teaching me about shutter speed and film sensitivity. Just seeing how vivid a night image is captured. Now this is on 35mm. The real magic happens now when you can take a picture and see the feedback right away. So this was weeks between acquiring the image and then seeing the print back then, but it always left an impact. And then it was always in the back of my mind for several years. And then on to my medical career. Many years later, only 6 years ago, I had to take a recertification course for my cardiology boards, and a friend of mine volunteered a condo she owns out in Jackson Hole that I could go out there and study in for a week. And I took her up on the offer just to have a great week in peace and quiet to do a lot of studying. And then I also said, with the rest of my time, I'm going to try to dive into this passion I know I always had for photography. So I was able to find a guide. His name's Mike Jackson, and he does one-on-one photo tours, and I signed up for him. I ordered my a Nikon D610 on Amazon, and it was all done pretty impulsively. Have the camera and lenses delivered with a travel bag, and went out to Wyoming, and I met him at 5 in the morning by the Snake River overlook. And we had a quick overview on knobs and buttons, of which he was a Nikon expert. And then we just started snapping away, taking some pictures. There was a harvest moon setting as the sunrise was coming up. We took a bunch of pictures until about 9 or 10 a.m. Then we stopped and had a break. And during lunchtime, he had a laptop out. He's like, let's see your memory card, popped it in, gave me a very quick overview to Lightroom. And all of a sudden we started processing these pictures that I just took. And it was just an absolutely mind-blowing, inspirational moment of mine to just see. I just couldn't believe that I took these images, and just the power of, honestly, of Lightroom to see how much better even a great image can look. And just the fire was instantly lit of inspiration, and it's been growing strong for the last 6 years. But those are some key moments in my journey of inspiration.
Now tell us about your first photo that really validated your interest as a photographer.
So the first photo, I would say was hard to compare to modern times because it was 35 millimeter, but I remember the acquisition of being out there at night with my dad, making sure a tripod is sturdy. I don't even know how people appropriately metered and set exposures on 35 millimeter film when you don't have the feedback with histograms and such that we have now. But the moment of seeing the prints come back from the photo lab and just seeing like how beautiful nighttime images were was really, I'd say that validated my interest. And again, back to that story in Wyoming at that lunch break where all of a sudden I couldn't believe these are the pictures I took from the Snake River overlook and a harvest moon setting over the Tetons. That magical moment where you all of a sudden can switch an image to black and white. And ever since then, I've also been very drawn to black and white nature photography and landscape photography.
So Michael, what do you enjoy photographing the most?
What do I enjoy photographing the most? I would definitively say just getting out into parks, into nature. Landscape photography is what I truly enjoy the most. Historically, getting out there and doing some trips alone was always great. I have a wonderful girlfriend who accompanies me now, and she has a big passion for it also, and she's learning. So it's been getting out there in nature is what I enjoy the most. I enjoy it also because it's such a great escape from my daily stressful life as a doctor. The things that I see in my day-to-day life in the hospital as a cardiologist, obviously dealing with the COVID pandemic and the impact that had, finding a way to get out and take pictures even during COVID, it was a huge outlet for me. I would say integration of astrophotography into landscape would be my ultimate favorite thing. Again, the mixing of the technology, using an app like Photo Pills to recognize and plan the pictures, and then being out there in the middle of the night, getting over any fears it takes to walk around the darkness alone, and just to feel the cold beauty of a cool night and all the stars and landscaping. It's so many things come together for me that really leave me very fulfilled. In another word about what do I enjoy photographing the most, I actually just love photography so much that I actually also love the challenge of finding a way to photograph anything, the mixing of the creative, artistic side of it with the technical side of it. I've taken pictures of a friend of mine racing his Porsche sports cars around a racetrack. So again, using high shutter speeds and using continuous focus modes. I love taking pictures of my kids' sporting events, of lacrosse games. Finding a way to take a picture of anything, I would say, is also my next most moment of what I like to shoot.
What has been your proudest moment as a photographer?
That's a great question. What has been my proudest moment of a photographer? I think I have daily proud moments. I have a lot of great prints from Artbeat Studios decorating my medical office. So very often throughout the day, I hear a lot of great feedback from patients just telling me how much they enjoyed looking at the picture, how it triggered some nostalgia for them because they've been to some of these places. And some of them just add, what a great way to just kill the time, zone out, and take them out of their own daily stress by looking at these great scenes. So that's a daily small pride moment. I think my next biggest, proudest moments were probably the first Milky Way picture I took after a lot of fascination with astrophotography, a lot of self-directed learning of videos and books about it, and then planning. My first moment was taking a picture of the Milky Way over a bridge, a broken out bridge down in the Florida Keys, that I was, again, perfectly able to map out with photo pills that the Milky Way would be near vertical, almost lined up over the cutout, broken down section of the bridge. The trick was I had to be actually on another bridge on the shoulder in the middle of the night, something I didn't tell my mother I was doing beforehand, but yeah, sure enough, walking on the bridge at 1 o'clock in the morning with my headlight on, total darkness, setting up the tripod, again, not being able to see that the Milky Way is really there with the bare eye, and cranking up the ISO and seeing that first picture come out. It's just a great moment of the culmination of the technical planning, the creative planning, and then being out there alone in the middle of the night and seeing it come together was fantastic. And then once I had the images printed, again on Artbeat Studio products, has been very fulfilling to me. But my ultimate proudest moment has been my project I have going on now with the University of Notre Dame. A great patient of mine invited my son and I to go to him to a couple of football games over the years. And I took my camera out there, and typical of me, getting out there at crazy hours, 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, some pre-dawn blue hour pictures I was able to acquire of the beautiful golden dome of the campus. And upon my own research, I was seeing on like Google imaging searching and Notre Dame's website, there weren't a lot of pictures like this out there at those hours, capturing the blue hour colors of the sky, the gold of the dome, and the green of the grass, which happened to be the Notre Dame colors. And I had a lot of good feedback from some Notre Dame alum that I knew, and I was able to pursue the people who run the bookstore, and it was a 6-month pursuit of sending the same email every month for 6 months before they answered it. Finally got in touch with the guy, ordered some Artbeat Studio products to send to him. I sent a sample aluminum, acrylic, and a canvas so he can see the products. And he got them as a gift from me to them to see it. And they said, this is great, we want to sell these. So it then started this whole licensing path, and it took another 12 to 18 months. And then finally this past October, they were able to launch an in-store installment of my work at the University of Notre Dame bookstore. I was out there for a football game weekend in the bookstore, talking about my artwork, showing it, hearing all the compliments from all these people. And you know, people don't know, everybody who went to Notre Dame loves Notre Dame. It's one of the most passionate college bases I've ever encountered. And just to hear the feedback from them, and again, you know, people buying your work is the most gratifying thing I think I've found so far. So that's been my proudest moment, and it's still going on because there's a lot of other great things happening with the university and my work there.
How do you feel photography has impacted the way that you see the world?
How has photography impacted the way I see the world? I've learned a lot of good lessons through my photography journey. Some of them are sort of metaphorical. When you're out there taking a picture of something, I always like to, read some great articles and seeing some sample pictures of what's your picture of. Can you alter the composition? Can you move one thing out of the way? Can you move 10 feet one way, get a different angle, get a different perspective? So that's sort of been helpful for life, of resolving a lot of personal and professional issues and learning empathy and seeing, well, if I can look at something in a different angle, a whole picture can look different. So that's one thing. Second thing has just been the value of connecting to nature and the value of having a creative outlet, an outlet from your general daily grind in your daily life. As much as I love my job, my friends, my kids, being out there on the beach of Oregon at 3 o'clock in the morning in the dead of night, nothing beats it. And I really, I've learned to value the world. And even in common scenes like those beaches are so crowded during the day, taking the time and effort to get to a popular place at an off hour to appreciate the peace and solitude and the beauty of things alone without other people there has really changed, impacted the way that I see the world. And then lastly, I would say just through the whole social media world and being out there in some popular places and national parks and such, the sense of community, photographers, it's just a nice, warming community. You can start talking to anyone with a camera. There's no competitiveness. It's just a welcoming community, people helping people, tips, pointers. I love following other photographers' social media. I love having them follow mine, and that's been a great lesson for the world also. And that is, we're all part of one community in one way or another, and we have to embrace each other, keep open minds, and let everybody in and help whoever we can.
Now, Michael, to get your creative eye focused, where do you draw your inspiration from?
How do I get my creative eye focused? That's a great question too. Very rarely do I set out to take a photo and say, this is exactly what I want to get. I have a concept of what I want. This is going to be some sunset pictures. I'm going to go to the beach here in Florida. But then it's just getting out there, and I don't even know what draws me to one place or another. Or, what do I want to get pictures? To me, the creative eye is focused by just actually being open-minded and getting out there with an open eye and an open mind, and walking the extra, half a mile to see how something looks from this angle, taking the time to, to vary techniques, vary shutter speed. I love using filters and getting some motion effect with clouds and with water. So to me, it's being as open-minded. I can't go out there with a full set mind of this is what I'm going to do, because things might not cooperate. The weather, other people, the event. It's been a great journey, and I can't even tell you how many full moon pictures I've had planned that get foiled by clouds. So rather than waste the whole night, end up finding something else to take pictures of that have proven to be pretty cool. I can't even tell you how many times I've gone out to take pictures, and the best pictures of a photo shoot very often are one of the very first or the very last images of the shoot. And that's always been a very consistent observation of mine, and just a lesson on, again, being open-minded and just going with the flow and whatever's inspiring me to walk this way and take some pictures.
What is your best photography-related tip?
My best photography-related tip, I would say I have a few of them. One is what I already mentioned, of just what are you taking a picture of? Focus on the composition. What is in the frame? Can you walk 3 feet and get a garbage can out of the way? Can you actually move the garbage can out of the way? Look at all the little things in the image. What is your picture of? Composition has been the biggest lesson and the biggest tip to me. The rule of thirds has been a big lesson for me. My other biggest tips, I would say, learning the use of histograms and exposing properly. As long as you get good data in, we can always salvage things with processing. And the continuation of that, the biggest tip is don't ever delete anything in the field, because you never know what you could salvage with some good editing.
Now, here's one of those questions I always love. What are some of the must-have items in your camera bag?
What are my must-have items in my bag? First and foremost, extra batteries and extra memory cards. I think every photographer's probably been there with some catastrophic depletion of storage or power, and all of a sudden your night's over, unless you're going to start deleting some pictures that you haven't even edited yet. Other must-have items are my shutter. Again, I've been out there, gone to take some night pictures, and I didn't have my shutter release, which is a big frustrating experience to have happen. And a good microfiber cloth to clean the lens with, especially, again, doing some early morning things, especially here in Florida with humidity. We get a lot of condensation and dew on lenses early in the morning, especially going from air conditioning out into humidity. So having a good cloth to clean off the lenses has been huge for me. And also doing a lot of astro stuff, having a good quality headlight has been great. So I would say those are my biggest must-have items, in addition to the obvious variety of lenses.
All right, Michael, it's that time, friend. I'm going to shift gears here a little bit. We're going to talk about how metal prints are made. Now, as you know, I recently had the opportunity to visit Artbeat Studios, who happened to win our best metal print shootouts over the last couple of years. Now, I received permission from the owners to go there with my cameras to capture how a metal print is made. Now, beforehand, we received permission from you to follow one of your prints through this process. Can you tell us a little bit about this photo?
So getting the call from my friends at Artbeat to tell me that they wanted to use one of my pictures for this project that you're doing with them was a big honor to me. They had access to all of my pictures I've done with them over the years, and they actually chose this one, which was a great coincidence to me because the story behind this picture captures just about everything why I love photography. So about this photo, this was an image of a church in the Dominican Republic at a place called Casa de Campo, and a specific section in there called Altos de Chavon, which is a reconstruction of like a 15th or 16th century Mediterranean Spanish village, and just a beautiful venue at the top of a mountain overlooking a cliff and a river in the Dominican Republic. And my friend Nick was marrying his fiance named Princess at this site last March, and it's been on my calendar, and I'm like, I'm gonna do something cool. I had been there, so I knew what the venue was. I'd never been up there at night. So once he told me that the ceremony was gonna be up there, my mind started going, and I said, let me use photo pills and see what are the angles. Let me see what the Milky Way situation will be. And sure enough, the facade of the church faces north and west, such that looking back at the church, the Milky Way always being south and east at certain times of the night, in the 3 or 4 nights that I'll be there, will be visible. Okay, great. So without knowing anything else, I had this planned, and this resort is a really cool place. It's 700-acre resort. Everybody has a golf cart. So from the hotel to this church was about a 20-minute golf cart ride. Again, middle of the night stuff in the Dominican Republic. So I had no idea what the scene would be like. So I went down there my first night, brought my gear up 1 o'clock in the morning. And, just getting up there 1 o'clock in the morning, there was a security guard who approached me, which was, a little ominous at first. He didn't speak any English. I didn't speak any Spanish. I was able to gesture that I wanted to take some pictures, and he let me go. And then, unfortunately, there was a lot of floodlights on the street in front of the church, such that the appropriate exposures and camera sensitivities that would enable me to capture the stars and the Milky Way were not, they were too bright. So they were washing out the picture. And all of a sudden, I'm like, crap, this isn't going to work. I have to come up with something. So the next day, during the day, I was able to go up there and talk to some people around there. And I'm like trying to explain, like, I need these lights out. Is there any way I can get these lights out? And I thought they understood. I think I gave them like $50 because it was that important to me to get these lights out at 1 o'clock in the morning. And they said it would be done. So went back the second night and get up there, and the lights aren't out, and now there's no security guard, there's no one. Crap. So 2 for 2. I was there for I think 3 nights, and then the third night was the day of the wedding. And then finally I'm like, I gotta tell somebody, maybe the wedding planner, or I spoke to Nick's mom, maybe she could help me out. So I told Nick's mom what was going on, and she got the wedding planner, and then they got the involvement of the resort. And it was planned, confirmed with the higher-ups. First of all, they were really very pissed that somebody took $50 from me and didn't follow through on what they said. I'm like, no one's getting in trouble. This is just a great story. Let's just get these lights out tonight after the wedding. They said 2 a.m. Great, wedding ended. Went back to my room, drove the golf cart all the way back up, 2 in the morning, and the lights were out. And just as perfect as everything could be, the lights were out. I was up there dead of night, the beautiful lights on the church going all around, framing multiple different compositions. I was up there for probably about an hour and a half or 2 hours. And it was just so gratifying. The picture came out beautifully. Editing these pictures, I had so many different versions of it, different compositions of it. I just took so much pride in the whole concept of thinking of it, making it happen once I was there, thinking on my feet, a failed bribe involving the wedding planner, and finally it all came together. I was able to get this great image, and I made a 40 by 60 inch print for Nick and Princess, and then I made actually a cool video of myself portraying the whole saga, as well as the delivery of the picture to them as their wedding gift, which again took them by great surprise. And I would have to humbly say, I think this is one of the most unique wedding gifts that they could have actually had, and now it's hanging in their living room as a reminder of the venue of their magical night of their wedding. So that's the cool story about this photo, and I'm really honored that it was selected to be part of this project.
Now, when you look at different types of mediums that you can print on, you have canvas, you have acrylic, you have metal, you have glass, you have wood. Michael, why metal? You could have gone with so many other mediums. What made you go with a metal print with this?
Why the metal prints? The metal prints are among my favorite of what Artbeat does. Something about the process and the vividness of the colors, the sharpness. It's like magical. People comment it's almost like having a high def TV on the wall. The float mount, about 3/4 of an inch off the wall with frameless view, with the sharp, vivid colors. To me, they truly pop. I think about 80% of the pictures I have in my office are the aluminum prints. They're definitely among my favorites that they do.
Now, Michael, I'm going to shift gears or semi-shift gears here again. I've seen the Artbeat Studios metal prints, and I've done comparisons with other prints in the marketplace. And without sounding all kind of artsy-fartsy for Artbeat Studios, why do you personally get your metal prints done here?
Why do I use Artbeat for my work? I did a bunch of research into various other, commercial fine art printers once I was moving along with my photography journey. And I'll have to say it was definitively a combination of pricing and customer service, both of equal importance. I got a great working relationship with the people there. I still haven't been out there myself to personally meet them, but this summer I would love to try to make it out there somehow. And it's just been great. It's an ongoing text messaging, emailing. The service they do is great. Their pricing platforms for high volume customers like myself is great. And it's been a wonderful partnership.
Such an amazing journey you've had, Michael, and thank you very much for sharing all these details with us. Now, friend, it is time. We're going to follow your photo from its digital form to becoming a metal print itself.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. I enjoyed it, and I appreciate your efforts and where this project goes, and I appreciate the great work that my friends at Artbeat Studios consistently do.
All right, friends, and before we dive into all of this here, I do want to clarify that obviously each one of these, you're going to see me kind of jump around a little bit here, but mind you, everything's going to be in sequential order or kind of a timely order as it's taking place. But I'm starting literally on the very outskirts of the frame being put together, and then you're going to see me go through the various processes here, and I'm going to try to put a little commentary or a little notes on the screen here as far as what's taking place, but just also know that we're kind of reducing time dramatically here, so therefore you're not you're not spending 5 hours. Well, it's not really 5 hours it takes, but you get the point. We're going to be jumping through this here pretty quick. Now, starting off with, this is the segment where he is sanding down. You just saw him cutting the raw metal that's going to be used to make the frame here, and now he's sanding the edges to get the frayed metal off what happens during the whole cutting process. And off the frame goes. All right, now the frame comes indoors, and there's a gentleman here that is going to just unwind everything and put all these corners here all together. And what's funny is they have these little brackets here that have my initials on it. I thought that was pretty cool. I'd love to say, actually, I think I did say it in a video a couple years back. These brackets were made specifically for me, but it says AMS, and so those are my initials, but obviously non-relating to me. But either way, getting back over to the print here, this was really fun to see how all of this gets put together. One of the things I really admire about metalwork is it's really tough to get. Metal is, unlike wood or some of the other mediums out there, metal is unforgiving. So if you don't have a perfect corner, you're going to notice those gaps there. So it's really fun to see how all of this is put together. This precision is put together. And now with the frame all put together, the same gentleman is actually rolling on an adhesive tape. This is kind of like a two-sided, like a 3M tape. And now, of course, obviously what's going to happen is once the metal print is finished, the frame is going to, this is how it sticks to the back of the frame, or sticks to the back of the print itself. Next, she's peeling off the protective liner. Then she's going to wipe it down for any sort of dust or debris that may be on here. And then what we're going to see her doing is inspecting for any sort of imperfections that are on here. This is actually, as I understand, a very important part of metal prints. We're coming into a delicate process here. She's going to carefully handle and transfer the paper to avoid the paper kinking. Then she's going to wipe down to remove any sort of artifacts that may be on there. This is where things, for me, with this whole process really started to become kind of a full circle. You have the Chromolux aluminum that is placed on top of the transfer paper. Then what's happening here is then it's taped down with a special heat-resistant tape. All right, friends, this is where the magic happens. With heat and pressure, the ink from the transfer paper turns into a gas and then is infused into the aluminum underneath the coated surface. Now, this creates a barrier from the ink to the elements, which is how these prints are waterproof and scratch resistant. Pretty cool stuff. Wow. And let's just pause and just admire just how the beauty of this here. This was really fun to see this part happen right here, guys, as she's pulling this out. And this print, by the way, is insanely hot for obvious reasons, but man, that looks absolutely stunning. Now she's going to flip this thing over and she's going to get the frame put onto the back of this thing here. And now obviously we're at the tail end of everything taking place here, but wow, what a absolute treat to see how this, I don't know about you guys, but I've always been intrigued with, you remember that show, How It's Made? I think it was on Discovery Channel. They would take things that are easy to take for granted and they show all these processes that go behind and actually making it. And it's funny, that big red thing that you saw over there, that was a big ball of tape that they had. There were pieces left over that she stuck on there, things like a big snail body. But at any rate, this was, again, you look at a metal print. Now, I have a lot of metal prints in my home, and it's easy to assume that it's a very simple process putting these things together. But there's a lot that, as you can see here, there's a lot that goes, and there's a lot of hands that touch each one of these. Well, let me clarify that. I think when they're a good quality metal print, like what you see what these guys are creating right here, this is a handmade process. So this is an act of love putting these things together. There's a lot of hands. There's a lot of steps to create a print like this. Now, I'm sure some of these other print houses that are just spitting these things out there, it's more of a manufacture process, and there's not a lot of kind of quality control and behind it. But something like this, yeah, there's, as you can see, there's a lot that goes behind each one of these. All right, friends, that is it. This was another one of those fun videos to put together. I've always enjoyed those how it's made shows. And again, as I mentioned earlier, it's sometimes easy to take for granted things that a metal print, a mouse, I'm sure there's a lot involved in it, but you get the point. Simple things that are easy to take for granted, but when you see behind the scenes of what goes into making these things, that's a lot of fun. And, again, seeing that these guys have won the best metal prints over the last couple years, I think this was one of those, hey, well, what's the secret sauce behind it? And these guys just work their ass off. There's no mass produced. These are all handmade. So this was a lot of fun to put this in front of you. Well, now it's that time of the video for our friends. I'm going to ask you to do all that YouTube stuff. These videos like this are put together for you to enjoy and to be able to find some value out of them. Now, of course, if we are successful and you just want to do us a solid, friend, do all that YouTube stuff, hit that like button down below. If you're currently not subscribed to the channel, friend, what are you waiting for? We'd love to have you part of the family. Last but not least, hit that bell so therefore every single time that we come out with a video just like this one, you are notified. And yeah, that's all I have here for you. So friends, I'm going to be jumping on my studio. You get out there, stay healthy, and take your best shot.